Came into work this morning and we have an error 2 on our new Lai Tornado gun, which tells me something is wrong with the coin builder, the tower builder I should say. So what you're going to want to do is, so there's these buttons right here which move this. I've already pulled all the coins out of here. And then there's these 4 screws you're going to want to remove. And after that, I will get you to the next step. The next tool you're going to need is a 5mm Allen wrench to pull the 2 side plates off right there. And there's 4 screws on each side. The top ones have washers, the bottom ones do not. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll go ahead and pull those off and get you to the next step. Here's where that short screwdriver comes in real handy, because you need to loosen, or you need to remove the 4 horizontal Phillips bolts, and then you need to loosen the 4 vertical bolts just a little bit so these can slide around. I'll show you as soon as I get it done. So now that I've removed these 4 screws from right there, I've loosened these, so now these are movable. And then that's one of the reasons you pulled out these first, these 4 screws with that small Phillips head. It's kind of pretty difficult to do, but this thing is actually just held up by a jack, and I'll get set up and show you how to jack this down. So basically you just want to pull this down right here until, if you can see there, you want to watch out for the clearance in between where the top of the hopper, or the top of the hopper holder, the coin holder is for that hopper, the extension, so that that motor doesn't hit or the plate doesn't hit it. And you're basically pulling it down until this metal ring coin builder comes on out. Let's see if I can hold my phone and secure it at the same time. So there, now you see it's free, but I want to keep moving, and I also want to keep my eye on that gap right there. So then the easiest thing to do is you actually want to tip this backwards and pull it out like that. Now this thing is really heavy, so it's good to have something right next to you to stand it on. So pull this, lift it out, and turn it so that we don't pull on those cables too hard right here on the harness. And now the next tool you're going to need is a Phillips head to pull these 6 Phillips head screwdrivers out, and then a Phillips head to pull these 4, and then a 7mm socket to pull, I believe there's 14 of them out. And as soon as I get there, I'll unpause. So there's actually 12 of those little 7mm nuts. Then you also want to make sure you disconnect this switch. This is a switch the coins hit to let the machine know they're in the correct position. And I like to take this off carefully and slowly so I can figure out at which point the coins got jammed. And just about, and I like to set this in something also so it doesn't get scratched up, because if that gets any burrs in it or anything like that, it will mess up. Just about every single time I pull that off, one of these wires comes off on this micro switch. Just before you put it back in, you gotta make sure you put that back on, otherwise you're gonna have to take the whole thing off again. So now to find out where the jam happened, we're gonna see where the coins are tight. All right, so it's not in front right there. So those feel pretty tight. And that one probably came loose already. But it looks like the jam happened in between these two fingers right there, if you saw how tight that was. Now what I'm gonna do is take these coins out, and I'm actually gonna turn the machine back on and give this whole thing a wipe down with some alcohol, a good high percentage alcohol, isopropyl, and get all that really clean. And then turn the machine back on and get the fingers in the right position, and I'll show you how to do that. Alright, so before I turn the machine back on, I like to connect this micro switch right here. This cable, so it'll be ready. And I like to take a bin like this in order to just place it under where those quarters fall. Otherwise you just get a bunch of tokens that fall underneath. So we'll go ahead and turn this bad boy back on. Another thing I forgot to mention, in order for it to work right, you gotta put this, there's a little, hold on. All right, I wanted to get a flashlight, so to see if you could see it there. When you move this, there's a little, tab you gotta line up. I don't know if you can see that tab moving there, but once you get that lined up with the sensor, then you can go ahead and reset it. So you just push the reset button. And some of these you need to push the middle. So I didn't have that tab set up right in the middle. So now what's gonna happen is this is gonna spin. You'll see this spin acting like it's gonna feed coins through. Switch up here. And then you push the micro switch to make it act like it's gotten a coin. And now what we're looking for to check is that the manual tells you to line it up flush evenly with those. But what I found works best is actually if all of these are just barely touching the coin, which they all seem to be. Go ahead and push that again just to... The way this coin tower builder works is it pushes coins all the way through, and then once the coins hit this, it actually comes back over the coins, pulls coins into it, puts it on the middle tower, and keeps building it up. And you'll notice as this spins. Pause that for a second. Alright, so now what I'm doing is I put all the coins in the track, and I make sure that when it hits there, that all these coins are lined up. And it looks like they're a little too far that way. So I need to push the micro switch this way a little bit in order to get them perfectly lined up. That's probably what caused my error. Go ahead. Loosen these a bit. Get that shoved as much far forward as I can. Alright, that looks a little better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that top back on and put her back together and see what she does. Another note to add when you're actually doing these, you don't want to go too tight. These studs stick out of a second plate, and if you strip one, you have to replace the entire bottom plate. So I just kind of like to just go snug. And you're going to want to make sure that you replace all 12 of these, all 6 Phillips, and all 4 Phillips. So make sure you're counting as you're going. But I will show you once I get it all back together how you put it back in. Alright, so now I got all my nuts and screws back in. I know the company, in the manual it says not to have coins in there. I like to put at least just one round in, just not quite touching the micro switch, but that way when it gets there, nothing's knocked out of place. That's actually what I heard from the factory. And I also like to make sure that these are tight, because if these are loose, that can cause you problems too. So those are all good. And again, double check, make sure that you plug this back in and that both leads are on there. And since we pulled this back forward in order to test it, we're gonna have to use that button to pull it back so we can get access to those 2 back screws right there. So now to put it back in, make sure we take out that thing we had to catch all the coins that came out for when we were doing our testing. You're going to spin this in the right direction. It's kind of a little bit of a pain in the butt. Again, like I said, this thing's a little heavy. Tilt it up a little bit, line it up on that track. Push it forward. What you're looking for is to line that up with that hole right there. So my method from doing this is actually I like to take that small screwdriver I had for that jack and just jack it up really slow and hang on to the piece and kind of try to line it up as I go. Once I get close, just make sure it's gonna go right in there. Now after I have that in there, take it up here. And you can see what I'm looking for here. I try to make sure it's nice and right there in the middle. You want to make sure you get it flush. So now that I'm getting closer, I'm gonna slow down. I like to wiggle it just a little, just until it gets right in place like that. And what the company actually tells you to do is once you get about here flush, is to raise it up just a touch, just to make sure that you are actually flush. And then I'm going to go ahead and put those 4 screws back in and basically go in the reverse order. After I get those 4 screws back in, I just like to go ahead and throw this white disc in there, which, because the coins, since there's no coins built up in there already, there's not enough weight to keep the tower built. So see if you can see the tab this time. Because last time I had it just was just a little out of adjustment, and that's why I was getting that error 7 and not able to reset. So you see that tab moving forward? You want that right in the middle. Just like that. Close as you can get it. And then you go ahead and start with putting these 4 screws back in. You want to make sure those are flush. And so I'll go ahead and get that done, and then after that I'll tighten those up. Again, as a reminder, as you're tightening these, you really do want to make sure these are flush. against the post, because sometimes you could tighten them and they could be off a little. You'd think the screw would push it back in perfectly, but it doesn't. So after you get all these in, then you go ahead and tighten these, and then you go ahead and you put the side supports back on, bottom bolts going first. I find it easier to put the two bottom ones in first loosely, and then to put the ones with the washers up top. It's just easier to find the holes that way. But go ahead and put those on and show you what's next. All right, so there you go. That's it in a nutshell. If you didn't happen to put coins in there after you reset the machine, you're gonna get an error 53 like that. That's the error I got because I was back there doing some testing on it. So we'll see how this does now. Alright, so it looks like she's building up coins. And it sounds pretty smooth. Another thing to note is sometimes back there you have to move one of those towers in order to access it, you know, the mechanism itself. So if you have to do that, you might get something like an error 90 later on in the game, or an error 89, a metal detecting error. The manual is not very clear about it. You could just go ahead and clear that. That's just saying, hey, there's supposed to be a tower here, and now there's not. Also, if you like my video, or you'd like me to make a video on another game, or have questions about any kind of repairs on an arcade game, just go ahead and leave me a like or a comment, and I will get you taken care of. Thank you.